by focusing on SDGs pertaining to inclusive development, their pathway to the inclusive development. Uh, so before going to this particular topic, you people are pondered into the sustainable development goals. Like already we all know that there are 17 goals of sustainable to achieve or to reach sustainable development. Before going to all this, the concept of sustainable development became much more popular during 1992 in the Rio de Janeiro conference in the Brundtland Commission. What is sustainable development? Because every day we think about economy, we speak on economic aspect, economic activities, everything. But altogether, we have to end up in sustainability. It might be livelihood, it might be development, or any progress or growth. We are concentrating and we have to reach in reality towards sustainability. What is sustainability? It is nothing but utilization of the resources by the present generation without jeopardizing the resources for the future generation. But what is happening today, thinking about our own self, thinking about our own generation without concentrating on the future generation, the things are happening and it is need of the hour to think in order to achieve sustainability in all arenas, not only stipulated to one particular aspect or the field, in almost all the arenas, because you people are in the skill development and interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary era. You take any subject, it might be any concern, anything it is, we speak in terms of sustainability. That is need of the hour, and this is the apt situation wherein the refresher course have been organized to the teaching fraternity by MMTC with the coordinator of our beloved professor Dr. M. Mahesha. So I would like to go with PPTs, and before that, why women's empowerment matter? Because this women empowerment is not a new concept, it is a very old concept. Even you can speak to the era of Vishwavara, Abhala, Ghosha, the one who used to participate in the sabhas when you think about the ancient history. But it is not a new concept, but we are putting this concept as putting a old wine in a new bottle. But it became more popular. We all celebrate Women's Day on 8th March because we also speak about Clara Jetlin of 1909 incidents where she protested against the employers when she was working in a garment industry. All those we all know. But before going to this women empowerment, what is empowerment? It is nothing but one's own decision making or one's own choice. But now the women empowerment in the earlier days is different from the women empowerment at present. Earlier, it was to earn our own bread. It was considered as empowered. But now it is entirely different scenario. Her leadership, her no participation, and our acceptance as a decision making holder both in the working as well as in the domestic domain, in the household domains. Of course, but we have 17 goals. But today, in my session, in my discussion, I will be touching into the goal number 5. Goal number 1 is no hunger, we all know. That is, or no poverty. Goal number 1 is no poverty. Goal 5, as you all know, it is related to gender equality. Goal 8, I would like to link goal 8 with that of goal 5. That is how the decent standard of working is important for women to have decent living condition. And goal number 10, that is equality, in order to have gender equality or reduction of inequalities. Reduction of inequality will be expressed in goal 9. So, with this backdrop, I would like to start with the presentation that women, of course, plays an important role for economic development Because when we look into the entire data statistics, 37% of the GDP, like globally, women contributes to achieve because making up half of the workforce is women. And like if we, there is a bridge between the male and the female workforce or contribution of male and female towards GDP. As we are looking into the screen, their contribution is just 37%. But what is the remaining portion out of 100? That if we bridge this particular gap, we can really achieve the target of achieve $12 trillion boost or $12 trillion to the global economy. Of course, this is the global perspective, and now I'm focusing on India. The female labor force participation in India, I'm talking about, is 29%. But at the global level, if we see, the female labor force participation is 47%, whereas women contribute to around 18% to India's GDP. So here I was talking about the sustainable development and the how the women globally contributes to the workforce or contributes to GDP. Her contribution is 37%, of course. But when we look into this in India, female labor force participation is just 29%. But we are lagging behind when compared to the global scenario where 47% of the labor force participation exists. And see, in India, women contributes to around 18% to GDP, we say. But which and also she sacrifices every day or average of around 7.5 hours daily as unpaid work. That is why there is a great debate nowadays to include the services of the housewife, which is unpaid, whether that has to be included for the calculation of national income or not. There is a great debate relating to this. Similarly, while it leads, when we speak about IT sector, in India, 28% of the women participation we can see in IT sector when compared to global scenario to the tune of 34, because India is called as that too Bangalore is considered as IT hub, whereas 28% is women participation we come across in IT sector, and rural female participation. What we see is the average female labor participation is 29%. But when it looked into rural female labor force participation, it is even less than that, that is 22%, especially in some of the northern districts of Karnataka. There are too many concepts or factors responsible for this. Barriers persist across legal aspect, financial aspects, digital spheres, and all these things. And similarly, relating to land ownership and access to phone, because I'm talking about access to mobile phones now. Why? Because we have penetrated into digital banking transaction wherein you require Android phones. Even a small vendor who will be selling maize on the roadside, he will have this digital scanner. So if this is the situation, when so much of transactions are taking place digitally, even till then, like even then, the women have access to phones by 38%. What is the remaining 62%? They live in rural area. They do not have access or affordable to buy it. With so many governmental policies and the programs to uplift the standard of living of the women folk in particular. As I said in the earlier talk, Sustainable Development 1 speaks on no poverty, which encourages financial inclusion through self-help groups and conditional cash transfers. See, earlier, that's what I said. If a lady or a woman or a man in general, if they have basic necessities, that will be considered as absolute, we have absolute poverty and relative poverty. Of course, he will be away from the absolute poverty. But now, what we say is our access to make our own choice, women access to make decisions in various fields, women to undertake leadership, all this with the help of self-help groups nowadays. 1998, Stree Shakti came into existence in Karnataka, became much more popular, and even Muhammad Yunus microfinance, microcredit became more popular, and this conditional cash transfers through SHGs and bank linkage programs, it is trying hard to eradicate or to reduce the poverty level. And similarly, Sustainable Development Goal 5 speaks on gender equality, which pushes legal reforms and quotas for women in leadership, isn't it? So there are some. The best example is Minimum Wages Act. Though it exists in practice, what's happening in reality? I think everybody can understand Kannada if I go a few of the issues which I would like to discuss in Kannada. Everybody can understand Kannada, or should I have to go only in English?
No, ma'am.
Um,
Sorry to
Maximum.
interrupt. Ma'am,
But
English,
there are
please.
other state participants also.
Sorry, ma'am. I can understand Kannada.
okay,
Ma'am, I
let
don't
us
understand
go.
Yes.
from
Let me
Tamil
go
Nadu.
only in English. Yeah.
We love
Sustainable.
to we love to hear from Kannada.
Okay. Excuse me. Sustainable Development Goal 5, it gives some legal reforms and quotas for women in leadership. See, earlier, when we speak about gender equality, even today, there are various policies on papers. Best example is Minimum Wages Act and equal pay for equal work. But what is happening today? Most of the planters or the farmers, they hire women labor force than the men labor force into some agricultural activities. We have on papers, we have in practice equal pay for equal work. But even in rural areas today, the women labor, agricultural laborers are paid less when compared to men agricultural laborers. That is in practice. And not only in that, my dear participants, if you look into the construction arena, today in the construction, the male will be getting like he may, yeah, yeah. A male laborer in the construction field, he get 1,000 rupees per day, just approximately. But if it goes for women, she will be fit into somewhere around 500 per day. This is once again where is the equality in the payment, equal pay for equal work. I'm not talking about the organized sector because in the organized sector, everything will be legal aspects, legal reforms. And but what is happening in the unorganized sector? Because we have to focus on the unorganized sector. It is need of the hour because 92% of the laborers, 92% of the workers are in unorganized labor sections or the unorganized labor fields. Similarly, Sustainable Development Goal 8, which speaks on decent working. So there we have the maternity leave benefits, affordable child care, and skill development. But we think that it is only, as I said, it is only in organized sector relating to the payment. But when we look into the decent working condition, most of the coffee plantations, when we go to the plantations and see big planters, they have even the creche facility to take care of the child of this particular women laborers who work in the plantation plantations, coffee plantations, rubber plantations. So this is one thing Sustainable Development 8 focuses on, decent work. What does Sustainable Development Goal 10 speaks on? its importance is on gender responsive budgeting. Karnataka 2015, and in the first phase, in the first year, it devoted around 5.7 percentage of the total income or total budget amount on gender budgeting. So what, and at the same time, in the same year, the government of Karnataka, I think so, most probably, it concentrated on the establishments of working women hostels in all districts. And similarly, for Karnataka, if this particular gender gap is taken care of, obviously 2.8 lakh crores will be contributed to GDP. And women constitute almost, we know, half of the population, 49% ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ it is nearing to 50%. As the state has already shown progress in IT hub ಅಂತಾನೆ ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ನ ಕರೆಯೋದ್ರಿಂದ and self-help group-led development, bank linkages program. All these successes in other sectors could result in transformative impact. So, can Karnataka's IT sector model of gender inclusion be expanded to other industries like manufacturing? Why I'm saying this, in the IT sector, the contribution is 28% to GDP, wherein most of the women are employed, are getting employment opportunity in IT sector. So women's contribution, when we say 37% of the global GDP, despite being 50% of the workforce, is contribution from the women folk is 37% to global GDP. But the population is concerned, we are 15 number. If we close up, or if we put an hindrance, if we put a block to this disparities, gender disparities, there might be an increase. Potential GDP boost may take place by the tune of $12 trillion. See, when we speak about India-specific data, female labor force participation is 29 in India, but when we speak on global average is 47. And similarly in India, the contribution by the labor force participation of women is 18%. Once again, we are lagging behind when compared to global average by 37%. It is 37% there. Similarly, in India, unpaid care work, the mother's work, or a woman who works at home for unpaid activities, she spends every day average of 7.5 hours as unpaid, whereas globally, when we see the average of global scenario, it is 4.5 hours. So, as I said, Karnataka is 34% of the women labor force is contributing to IT sector at global level and 28% as the national average. Only 22% of the labor force in northern districts are engaged into the labor force or work rate participation, when compared to 41% in the metropolitan city or the capital city of Karnataka. So that shows how a 50% gap is there between the rural area and the Bangalore is concerned as the capital city. And what are the key barriers in Indian context? See, legally 20, to go for that, we have wage disparities. See, when we look into the gender pay gap between male and female, I said about the unorganized sector. I'm talking about more of unorganized sector, because 90% of the laborers are engaged in unorganized than in organized labor sector. In India, this gender pay gap is 34%. Here at global scenario, it is 23%. Karnataka, I have taken IT as well as manufacturing by not taking the unorganized sector, because I'll be explaining it in next slides. Karnataka IT is 28% because Karnataka's manufacturing sector gender pay gap is 42% because most of the women are engaged into garment sectors, garment industries, MSMEs, cottage and small scale industry, where women are put into larger number for employment opportunity, and there in the gender pay gap exists less in manufacturing compared to the IT sector in Karnataka state, but it is average 34% in India and global to the tune of 23%. And similarly, when equivalent male roles, when we see Anganwadi workers, they get 8,000 rupees of monthly salary income. Where against the same type of male roles in other activities, they get 15,000 rupees of monthly salary. And also, there are various slides. I will skip and go forward for leadership deficit. See, I have just taken these data from the reports as well as from the district at glance as well as Karnataka handbook and all this. But when we look into the leadership deficit, even today, we have Grama Panchayat one-third reservation. Yet, though the women has been elected, the entire works have been done by their own husbands. This is the practical aspect which is going on. Reality at reality. See, in the corporate sector in India, 18% the ladies they take steps as the leaders, whereas in Karnataka we are ahead of the average of India. 22% of the corporate boards have been taken lead by the women folk. And similarly, when we see about MLAs, 14% in India and 9% in Karnataka, and come to the self-help group. Today, they used to keep money, women used to keep money in the kitchen. Now they have penetrated into the banks to make investment, to save, and to have their recreational activity. The self-help group is playing a leading role in the life of especially rural women, and their leadership is also taking place because it goes on rotation, self-help group leadership. And in India, 51% of the leadership has taken by women in self-help group when compared to 63% of leadership in Karnataka. And when we see that Sustainable Development Goal 1, there is no poverty, we say, right? India's Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So, as per today, 46 crore accounts have been done under zero account. Earlier, they should have 500 or 1,000 rupees of income as the minimum balance to have their own account. But now they said that inclusive growth because we have 12 5-year plans. After that, the Niti Ayoga came into existence. The 12th 5-year plan between 2012 to 17. Its main aim is to achieve inclusive development, evergreen, as well as inclusive development is the main aim of this particular 12th 5-year plan. So during that period in the year 2014, Jan Dhan program came into existence to have accounts in all commercial banks, and the bank should be reachable to all sections of the society in order to benefit and to provide economic assistance to the rural as well as the common layman. With this, 46 crore accounts have been created, and out of this, 60% are of the accounts have been owned by the women. Similarly, Karnataka's Three Shakti, when we speak about 8.2 million women in self-help groups with 5,000 rupees, 5,000 crores of credit what they are taking, and they also save. I think you all know about Stree Shakti. Every week they make their savings, not monthly savings, week savings. So that will be even the amount they get as credit has gone high to the tune of 3 lakhs And within 3 years, they have to make the repayment of the loans along with the interest. It is a good initiative for the well-being of the women community. So, similarly, SDG 5, Sustainable Development 5, focuses on gender equality. See, any policy we may take, because in economics we see and concentrate on three aspects. Anything you take, for example, state, market, civil society. So there might be a good relation between state and the market, and there might be a good relationship between state and the civil society, and there might be the conflict also may exist between the state and civil society. What is state? Because no need to go to Aristotle. Let us concentrate on the classical economists. They say state is the government. Classical group of economists like JB Say, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, or they said that minimal role of the government, laissez-faire policy. But all these assumptions of the classical economist went up to 1929 in a fine way. But what happened in 1929? There was a Great Depression in America, and they thought that they had to they had to start with the new assumptions. So, various economists, under the leadership, we can say not the leadership, various economists, especially John Maynard Keynes, came with his famous work, General Theory of Income and Interest and
Employment
Employment. General Theory of Employment, Interest and Income.
and
So,
money.
yes, money too. So, James Keynes, he said that not the minimal role, the government has to take more importance to provide employment opportunity, he says. Because earlier they said it was the minimal role, but James Keynes says, dig the hole and fill it up. That is what today happening. He says somewhere in his book, General Theory, dig the hole and fill it up. Halla tagiri gundi muchi, that provides employment opportunity. So till then, the role of state, the state was considered as police state, and only then it was considered as welfare state. Why I'm saying all this? Because the government is giving so much of policies, programs for the upliftment of the women. Similarly, there might be some inflation in the economy, rise in the price and fall in the money value. What does it do? The market force, demand and supply forces, by using this, the state will have control on the money supply and tries to reduce the inflationary situation, right? When the money supply is reduced, rate of interest goes high, obviously savings decreases. So obviously savings increases, people will not come forward to invest. The demand for four factors of production, land, labor, capital, and organization, comes down. Labor is one factor, no demand for the labor, no employment opportunity for him, no income, no purchasing power, and demand for the commodity comes down. Price also comes down. Value of money goes high. This is how the situation is. So, the government or the state will take care of the demand and supply forces with its own monetary fiscal policy, even with the help of public debt or public revenue, public expenditure, everything. And NGOs, that is civil society, if we speak about, what does the civil society, it might be media or it might be some of the NGOs, take for example. There might be some good relations between the state and the NGOs. Sometimes what is happening, there might be some conflict between the NGOs and the state. The best example is the Narmada Bachao. The Narmada Bachao is one program which was to construct a dam across the Narmada. But the Medha Patkar Association, they went against the government itself. The NGOs for the welfare of the public, and to by concentrating on ecosystem, not to harm or not to damage the ecosystem. Similarly, here there are various policies. See, India's in order to provide gender equality, India has taken various reforms. Even Karnataka, the maternity leave has also been provided to, but as I said, when we speak about the organized and unorganized labor force, 92% are in unorganized sector, and this only 2% of the workforce they have. Excuse me.
Continue, ma'am.
Karnataka's like first, I was discussing this gender budgeting, which was started like since 2005. Currently, like 5.8% of the state budget is completely reserved as gender budgeting. That's what I said. First, to implement working women's hostel in all districts. And in order to link with the sustainable development goal with decent work condition, we have Ishram portal. Like around 53% of the women are there. Like in Ishram, 28 crores are informal workers wherein have enrolled themselves or registered into Ishram, out of which 53% of the women, 53 are the women in that. Similarly, we have artisans, because wherever we go in almost unorganized sector, in the sense, artisans also plays an important role. There is an app, Kayaka app, linking women artisans to global market. See, most probably some of the hair oil advertisements which you might have come across on the roadside. See, they have developed the market link with abroad, with other foreign countries, and they go, they sell, and the people are they are making use of this herbs, and this herbal hair oil. What they do, like similarly, the artisans making of toys. Because of that, in central budget, budget also, the Channapatana toys has gained some importance. And similarly, these artisans and Kayaka app, this is one app which is linking especially the artisans, women artisans, to the global market. And sustainable development goal 10, which speaks on reduced inequality. So inequality is, we can say that inequality is cannot be removed. It might be developed countries, it might be underdeveloped, sorry, not underdeveloped. All countries are developed now, are developing now. So developing and developed countries, we have two sections now. Any country, developed or developing, there exists inequality. It is in terms of income, in terms of gender, in terms of work rate participation, everything. The India's paradoxical situation, see, in agriculture, 75% are women working in agricultural force. Only 13% are landowners. This is the paradox. 75% we come across the laborers in agriculture, but 13% are the landowners. Similarly, when we speak about Karnataka's joint and here, around 55% of the laborer, 55%, they depend on agriculture for their livelihood overall. Out of which 75% of the laborers, agricultural laborers, are women, especially in agriculture. But regarding the land ownership, it is only 13%. And as I said, 49%, and it is 48% of the state's, Karnataka state population is female. And when we speak on economic opportunity, that's what I'm saying since past two slides. The gap, the gender gap, if it is hold under clutches, that would add around 2.8 lakh crores to the gross domestic product of Karnataka. Similarly, as we said, it is women who are engaged in IT sector. It is to the tune of 34% already leads into in Karnataka and self-help group. When we said in the last slide relating to leadership, 68% of the women have taken lead in self-help groups. The self-help group. What are the key challenges for women in the economy? It might be global, India, and Karnataka's perspective. Persistent wage gaps. See, global context, out of 1 rupee, or $1 when we take into, if the men are earning $1, 100 cents will be equivalent to $1, right? So as per ILO 2023, International Labour Organization, the sub-branch of United Nations. See, if women earn 77 cents, the men will be earning $1. So this shows the gap to the tune of 33 cents. So this particular gap where we come across in the entire global scenario on the ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, one the Middle East. So only 35%. But South Asia, concentrate on South Asia. India comes there. There exists gap. But Southeast Asian tigers, we say. ASEAN ಎಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಓದಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೌತ್ ಈಸ್ಟ್ ಏಷ್ಯನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೌತ್ ಏಷ್ಯನ್ ಟೈಗರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಸೌತ್ ಈಸ್ಟ್ ಏಷ್ಯನ್ ಟೈಗರ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೌತ್ ಏಷ್ಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಟು ದಿ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ಆಫ್ 34% ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಮೆನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಹೂ ಆರ್ ಅರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ದೇರ್ ಅರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. ಅದನ್ನೇ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು, ಅನ್ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ಡ್ ಲೇಬರರ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒನ್, ಅಮಾಂಗ್ ದಿ ಅನ್ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ಡ್ ಲೇಬರರ್ಸ್ ದೆರ್ ಈಸ್ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್. ಪೇ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಾಗ ಮೆನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಪರ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ scenario I'm giving. See, in this table, India specific data when we take into IT is only gender pay gap is less. IT manufacturing only 42% ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. And when we speak about agriculture, it is 35%, and healthcare services, it is 31%. So it is not only the government sector we are talking about, it is healthcare andaga private we have taken into. So IT sectors is 28% of gender pay gap, and manufacturing sector only 42%, wherein most of the women are they go for manufacturing sector. There we come across huge gender pay gap. That gap has to be closed in order to increase the contribution from female towards the GDP ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಈಗ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸವಾಲು. It is the challenge. So in IT sector, there is 26% globally gap and 28% of the national average. And garment industry, there is gap in, I'm talking about Bangalore factories. Garments ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ 45% gap exist. Because ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ವಿಮೆನ್ ದೇ ಗೋ ಟು ಮ್ಯಾನುಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಚರಿಂಗ್ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಗಾರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನಿಯರ್ ಬೈ, ವೇರ್ ದಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಆಫ್ ಲೇಬರರ್ಸ್, ವಿಮೆನ್ ಲೇಬರರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಮೋರ್. And due to this, and Bangalore is also considered as one of the hub for garments, alva. So the obviously due to the increase in supply force as well, and due to long hours of work and all this, the women ಅವ್ರದೇ ಆದಂಥ ಒಂದು 8 hours of working hours ಅಂತ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅಥವಾ 12 hours ಅಂತ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ದೇರ್ ವಿ ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ದಿ ವೇಜ್ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದಿ ವೇಜ್ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಅಥವಾ ಪೇ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ಮೆನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ garments sector. As we discussed once again, the underrepresentation in the leadership andaga, corporate bodies we see in, this is the old data I've taken into, please, because the Parliament and India and Karnataka, when we take into the corporate boards, adu osaride, and Parliament I have not filled in. State assemblies also, What does it shows anta ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ when we look into the India scenario and Karnataka scenario, Karnataka is ahead in terms of leadership in all aspects when compared to the average of India. That is what we say in paradoxical situation. If I ask you all a question, which state is having highest per capita income ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಅಥವಾ ವಿಚ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಗುಡ್ GDP ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಟಾಪ್ ರ್ಯಾಂಕಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋದು ವಿ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ಪಂಜಾಬ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹರಿಯಾಣ ದ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. But the paradoxical situation is when we have to rely still on 2011 data census. ಇದರದ್ದು ಯಾವುದು sex ratio if we take into for 1,000 male there is least sex ratio in Haryana to the tune of 877. So ಇದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅನ್ನೋದಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಂತ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. See, this once again, when we take the Karnataka case study, the positive, as we said, 34% of the women in IT sector leadership and unpaid hours ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ global, I'm talking about global. In India, 7.5 hours per day, women, they are engaged in unpaid, but global comparisons, when we take into, women are engaged into 4.5 hours per day as unpaid when compared to men of 1.7 hours per day, data taken from OECD. So women are unpaid and it is mandatory because we are so accustomed and we think that it is a part and parcel of our duty to pursue those things if we enter into kitchen or if we enter into our own house. They are all unpaid work. Nobody will be paid for that. So this is the data which I'm giving. And in rural India context, in rural area, in urban area, it's 7.5 hours, but whereas in rural area, it is 8.5 hours per day. They are engaged into unpaid work, as NSSO report stated. And urban working women, they spend 6.2 hours as unpaid work. So ಅದನ್ನ put together, we get the average of it, 7.5. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಇನೋವೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ but rather than speaking on Matrupurna scheme which provide take-home rations to reduce cooking time ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ, if we go to mall also we get everything ready and instant, but which will have once again it is a great hindrance to the health, which is causing deadly dangerous diseases. And Karnataka innovations anta helidre, as I said, creche facility, it is mandated on papers in all garment factories to provide creche facility for the kids of the laborers who are involved into creches. But as of now, when we look into the data, only 40% of them have provided creche facilities to the laborers in garments, in garment industry I'm talking about, not in all the sections. Even we say in plantations, the laborers who are engaged in agricultural laborers as in coffee plantation, they have to get this creche facility. But today what is happening, all the coffee plantations, because it is on the papers and it is the norms, rules, they have to go with that. But some of them are not following it up, and still the efficiency we have to expect from the laborers without giving the proper facility. That is what we have one scheme called as Madilu Kit. In the next slide, I'm going to talk about that. And the economic impact, because value of unpaid work is, let us go for the limited access to resources. See, credit access, and if we say how the credit facility are provided, even today, if we go and ask in Janadan program, they have provided this zero balance account, right? But if we ask anybody, it is not women I'm talking about, they say The procedures are very high, and it is so delay. Even today, the people in the rural area, instead of going to bank, they go for money lenders for the easy access of the credits. Even with all the facilities, zero balance account, everything provided by the banks and the government, people they feel somehow sort of easy, rather than filling up the applications formalities, fulfilling the formalities. They prefer to go for money lenders or the traders. Sometimes they sell their own crops for the traders, all this. So when we see this, women with bank accounts are 77% in India and 82% in Karnataka. And MSME, we can also see the Mudra loans and Udyogini. Udyogini scheme also you can see that, where the loan facilities have been provided to the women under these two programs. Mudra is provided both for men and women, but most of the loan beneficiaries are women under that. And MSME loans, if we see, 14% of the women have got access to this in India. But when we see the Karnataka state, it is around 18%. But loan rejection rate is also is very high. Loan rejection is more high in India when compared to Karnataka. Sometimes this banks, MSME loans, when we speak about, this shows that one thing, their access is less. Second thing, their own ownership is less, because when I said about agricultural lands, 70% of the agricultural laborers are women. Only hardly 13% of the ownership is by women. Similarly, MSME owned by women might be very less, and most probably the loan borrowers or the beneficiaries of loans by MSME, especially led by women, is also less, to the tune of 14 to 18%. But most of the women nowadays are aware of the benefits, are aware of the programs in order to start MSMEs or the startups, all this. And self-help group model, when we take into around, as I said, 5,000 crores of rupees credit have been dispersed in Karnataka under self-help group. 8.2 million are the beneficiaries of it. And uh, occupational segregation. The sectoral distribution we have made into occupation, see here, but this is on records we have the payment, but it has increased now when compared to this. Agriculture is, as we said, 75% of the women workers are engaged into agriculture, and average daily wages is, agricultural women laborers is at present 300 rupees per day. The data which I have taken has been revised. The garments, I said there exists wage gap between male and female. 80% of the women workers are engaged into garments, and they are paid 400 rupees per day. In IT sector also, the contractual labor force, women laborers who are into this, around 34%, wherein they are paid 2,000 rupees, 2,500 at average daily wages for them. But construction, hardly we come across, because women, they don't go with the cement work. Instead, they go as helpers. So there 12% of the women workers are engaged into construction as laborers, and they get 500 rupees per day as average daily wages. See, when we speak about education, Karnataka specifics, positive, that is around 28% of the women are engaged in STEM education. In Karnataka, 28% we say, but whereas it is 21% at the national level. STEM ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ science, technology, ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್, ಮ್ಯಾಥಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಇವತ್ತೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದಿ ಅರೀನಾಸ್ which really provides automatic job opportunity soon after their graduation, soon after their education with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So, this is a positive sign in Karnataka to the tune of 28% of women folk, whereas the national average of 21%. Similarly, we have domestic workers as women with no social security. ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಗಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಮೇಡ್ ಸರ್ವೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ವರ್ಕರ್ಸ್. ವಾಟ್ ಸಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ್ಯಾಮ್ ಟುಡೇ? ರೈಟ್. ಅನ್ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ಡ್ ಅಂದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಮೆಷರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಮೆಷರ್ಸ್, ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಕಮ್ ಫಾರ್ 5 days ಆರ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಗೋ ಆನ್ ಲೀವ್ ಫಾರ್ 3 months, what will we do? We go for alternative. We don't even entertain them by paying them wages even in their absence and taking other domestic workers or the maid servants, right? This is what happening in the reality for their social security. 92% ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ವರ್ಕರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 92%, if they go on leave for their health issues, especially I'm talking about the women domestic workers or the maid servants, 92%, they are with no social security. So, now the key takeaways for Karnataka, which I would like to express is, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ IT sector shows more potential. There we compare wage gap, and the wages are also very high to the women when compared to contractual daily wages. Than national average, it is high. And Karnataka also has developed one self-help group model. ನಮ್ಮದೇ ಆದಂಥ self-help group ಮಾಡೆಲ್ನ it is more popular in India. ಹೇಗೆ ನೀವು ಕೇರಳದಲ್ಲಿ ಕುಟುಂಬಶ್ರೀ ಅಂತೀರೋ, ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ self-help group model which works around 63% of the women in leadership positions. Because as we discussed in the previous slide, the leadership is very high in SHGs, and leadership is also high in Karnataka when compared to the average of India. So this critical gaps anta ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, I said land ownership below 20% ಅಂತ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, 13% ಅವರು ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಓನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಬಟ್ yet 70% of the women are working as agricultural laborers. And care work burden also, this limits labor force participation. Sometimes the mother feels that their children are more important rather than going and earning. So sometimes if there are no creatures, if there are no caretakers for the children, or sometimes if there are no care work burden, so naturally these are like barriers for the women to penetrate into workforce. So how does this sustainable development goals and these policies can empower women by focusing on India and Karnataka? So here the key policies. First one, like microfinance and digital banking for women entrepreneurs. How does it works in India and Karnataka? ಸಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಫೈನಾನ್ಸ್. ನಾವು ಮೊಹಮ್ಮದ್ ಯೂನಿಸ್ನ ನೋಡೋದು ಬೇಡ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಡಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡೋಣ. ದಿಸ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋ ಫೈನಾನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೊಹಮ್ಮದ್ ಯೂನಿಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಎಕಾನಮಿ. ಆದರೆ ಇದರದೇ ಆದಂಥ ಲೂಪ್ ಹೋಲ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಮೊನ್ನೆ ತಾನೇ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಇನ್ ಆಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಸೊ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸ್ತ್ರೀ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್, ಇಟ್ ಮೊಬಿಲೈಸ್ಡ್ ಅಥವಾ ಮೊಬಿಲೈಸಸ್ 10 million plus women into self-help groups, linking them to microfinance ಅಥವಾ linking them to micro loans. Digital banking, we have ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಪ್ರಧಾನ್ ಮಂತ್ರಿ ಜನ್ಧನ್ ಯೋಜನಾ. It has created zero balance account for 500 million plus. So UPI has enabled rural women to transact digitally. ಇವತ್ತು ಹೌದು ತಾನೆ. Even that's what I gave the example of a flower or a fruit seller on roadside vendor who will have this UPI scanner. This has enabled the rural women to transact, and everything will be like transactions will come to the there will be no evasion of taxes, everything. And case study, when we look into Karnataka Sanjeevani scheme. See, this Sanjeevani scheme is like providing training to boost income by 40% for agro processing, because it provides training in the field of agro processing. Sanjeevani scheme is a Karnataka government scheme, whereas 3,000 SHGs trained in agro processing, boosting income by 40% of the income by providing training, because agro processing nowadays is becoming more popular. Now ivattu ಸಿರಿಧಾನ್ಯಗಳು ಪ್ಯಾಕೆಟ್ಸ್ packed and sealed agricultural grains. All these are agro processing industry. They are gaining momentum, and training is also provided for through SHGs through in this Sanjeevani scheme, and this has resulted in enhancing the income of the people or the women who are involved in such trainings, and who have been nowadays they are also become the entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs. ಸಿರಿಧಾನ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೇನೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಚಲಿತವಾಗಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಇವತ್ತು. ಕಂಡೀಷನಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ಸ್, ಹೌ ಇಟ್ ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಮಾತೃಪೂರ್ಣ ಸ್ಕೀಮ್ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ 6,000 ಪ್ಲಸ್ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಷನ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಟು ದಿ ಪ್ರೆಗ್ನೆಂಟ್ ವಿಮೆನ್, ಕಂಡೀಷನಲ್ ಆನ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಚೆಕಪ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಚೆಕಪ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ they get 6,000 plus nutrition support to pregnant women. This is Karnataka's Matrupurna conditional cash transfers, CCTs, and India's Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana. ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, it directly transfers cash to the women farmers, 6,000 rupees ಅಂತ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ, ಅದು ಕೂಡ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಿದೆ 2 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಆಸ್ ರಿಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಪಾವರ್ಟಿ. ಅಂದರೆ ನೀತಿ ಆಯೋಗದ 2023 ಡೇಟಾ ಪ್ರಕಾರ the Karnataka's poverty has reduced by 12% with the self-help groups in Karnataka, their part, their role, because they are gaining momentum, they are increasing the savings. This has made them to take the credit facility, and this has increased their leadership, this has increased the bank savings. ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ this has reduced poverty by 12% ಅಂತ ನೀತಿ ಆಯೋಗ ಹೇಳಿರುವಂಥದ್ದು. ವಿಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಸೇವಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್, ನಾನು ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, grew by 200% in past 5 years. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್, ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಡ್ಡಾಯ, ಅದು ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಂಪಲ್ಸರಿ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟ್ರಿ ದಟ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಸೇವ್ ಇನ್ SHGs ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕ್, ನಾಟ್ ಮಂತ್, ನಾಟ್ ಇಯರ್, ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕ್ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಉಳಿತಾಯದ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪ್ರತಿ ವಾರ ಅವರು ಉಳಿತಾಯವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಉಳಿತಾಯ ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಟೇಕನ್ ಫಾರ್ 3 years ಅಥವಾ 1 year, ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ bylaw ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್, ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಲಿಂಕೇಜಸ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕೀ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ರಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಪೇ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. See, India's code on wages, we have, ನಾನು ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ವೇಜಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್. ಕಂಪಲ್ಸರಿಲಿ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಪೇ ಫಾರ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ವರ್ಕ್, ಬಟ್ ಆ ಜೆಂಡರ್ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸವಾಲು. ಹಿಯರ್ ಕೀ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬೀನ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಆಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಸ್ ಕೋಡ್ ಆನ್ ವೇಜಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ವೇಜಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ ವರ್ಕ್, ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಪೇ ಫಾರ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಂತಾನು ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಜೆಂಡರ್ ಪೇ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಗ್ಲೋಬಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಇಂಡಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ ILO ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ರಿಮೇನ್ಸ್ ಅಟ್ 19% ಸೀರಿಯಸ್ಲಿ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾಸ್ ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟಿವ್ಸ್, Karnataka State Women's University trains women in salary negotiation. So ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ this ತಗೊಂಡೆ, this is related to university ಅಂದಾಗ this was catchy to me. It is providing training to the women in salary negotiations and quotas for women in leadership, that is Panchayat Raj. ನಾನು ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ 1/3 ರಿಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬೀನ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ವಿಮೆನ್. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೊ 50% ರಿಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಫಾರ್ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಗವರ್ನಮೆಂಟ್ ಪಂಚಾಯತ್ ರಾಜ್, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 1.2 million ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ವಿಮೆನ್ ಲೀಡರ್ಸ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ದಿ ವರ್ಕ್, ಹವೆವರ್ ದಿ ವರ್ಕ್, ಹೂ ಮೈಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡನ್ ದಿ ವರ್ಕ್, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಪಂಚಾಯತ್ ರಾಜಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರಾ, ಕೋಟಾಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ, ದಿ ಕ್ವಾಂಟಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ರಿಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್. ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ Security Exchange Board of India mandates one women director. It is compulsory. So, in the corporate boards, only 18% compliance in Karnataka, Nifty, everything, all corporate sections. Nowadays, they have given quotas for women as to be the directors. ಆದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು 18% ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಪಾಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ನ್ಯೂನ್ಯತೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ವಿ ಸಿ ಸಮ್ ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಯುನಾಸ್ ದೋ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟ್ರಿ ಇನ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ women-led panchayats in Karnataka has increased school enrollment by 22%. See, women panchayats alli women-led panchayats anta yenide, it has increased school enrollment. How does it increases the school? Because they go to the every ಈಗ ನಾವು ಮೊದಲೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು the ASHA ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್tas, ASHA workers are there in rural area to disseminate the new programs, policies to each and every houses. Similarly, Anganwadi workers are there. The women-led panchayat members, they go home to home, and they like try to inculcate in the minds of the younger ones or the present generation women to send their children to the schools, because 2030 ಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆಶೆ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ಆಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಸರ್ವೆ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಎನ್ರೋಲ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಬೈ 50%. ಸೊ 2030ಗೆ ಈಗ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಎನ್ರೋಲ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ನೋಡಕ್ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಔಟ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾನು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದೆ 85% ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಔಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್. ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಇನ್ today's newspaper. I think you all might have come across 85 students dropouts in one school, in a school in Mandya district, mainly that they have rejected the midday with egg, providing eggs anta. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅನದರ್ ಕೀ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಫೋರ್ಡಬಲ್ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಕೇರ್. ಇದು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಇವತ್ತು ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಡಾಂಬರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ ರಸ್ತೆ ಬದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಸಿ ದಮ್, ದೇರ್ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಅದರ್ ಪಾತ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ರೋಡ್ಸ್. ಹೂ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಕೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಚ್? ಇನ್ ನರೇಗಾ ನೋಡಿ, ನರೇಗಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತಾರೆ, ಹೂಳು ಎತ್ತುತ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಆ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಮಕ್ಳೊಂದು ಬದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪನಿಂಗ್? ಅಫೋರ್ಡಬಲ್ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಕೇರ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಕೀ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದರಿಂದಾನೇ ಇವತ್ತು ಅಂಗನವಾಡೀಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ತೆರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 5,000+ ಅಂಗನವಾಡಿ ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿ ಕ್ರೀಚ್ ಎನೇಬಲಿಂಗ್ 3 lakh ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಮದರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಇಂಡಿಯಾಸ್ ಮೆಟರ್ನಿಟಿ ಲೀವ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ most of the women who are working here in the formal sector, including ourselves, or we will be the beneficiary of this. And but informal, ನಾನು ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಳಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅನ್ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ಡ್ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ it persists. Gap still exists in the informal or the unorganized labor sections of the society. ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್, ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಏನಪ್ಪ? ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ನೀವು ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ? ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ somebody will come, they speak on the skill and they motivate the students and go. But when we look some of the social mediaದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ, when we speak on when we come across ಜಪಾನಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ, if the baby or a kid go to first standard, in which he or she is interested, whether in knitting of the sweater or in basket making, in food processing industry, in beautician courses, they provide training from the grassroots level of their education in some of the developed countries too. Why did I took Japan? Because it is a country with so many challenges and still it is excelling. So here 3 million+ women have trained in science, technology, engineering, with the mathematics. 30% are from Karnataka. So Karnataka's IT policy have placed in technical jobs through elevating or improving. ನೋಡಿ, ಅದು ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ IT women ನ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಜಾಬ್ಸ್ ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟು, and at the same time it has elevated 100 startups. ಇವತ್ತು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಅಪ್ಸ್ ಭಾರತಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮೊರೇಷಿಯಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಬಂದು ಹ್ಯೂಜ್ foreign direct investment it has made, only it is earning from tourism, that country, but it is making huge amount of investment through foreign direct investment, and that there is need of the hour for India to start up and to have our own exports. That is what happening today. A great trade war is taking place between India and America by increasing 25% by the Trump on the exports and of India. That will leads to hike by 50% of tariffs to on Indian commodities. So when this skill India mission is providing training andaga, almost all the engineering colleges, they have STEM antane on the branch, it is mandatory. And the impact of it is Karnataka's female labor force participation has increased by 10%, that was 9%, which was 23%, and now it has increased to 32% by 9%. We come across the increase in it. And what about the key policies for all these andaga? See, in Karnataka we have gender budgeting. Adu 5% madlu seemitavagiತ್ತು. Now it is thinking to hike 5 to 7%. Karnataka's gender responsive budgeting, 35% of the agricultural funds have been reserved or earmarked for women farmers. Similarly, India's Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, it is one of the program for girl education. So 10,000 crores have been allocated under this Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao program for girls' education. And we have already, I spoke on Udyogini. Udyogini is a scheme of Karnataka wherein they provide subsidies for the women to start micro entrepreneurs or the small entrepreneurs by providing 5 lakh rupees as loans at very meager amount of interest to the tune of 4%. And it is also Udyogini scheme has provided loans for around 50,000 women entrepreneurs. And I also spoke on Mudra Yojana, which is not only for women, but this Udyogini scheme is exclusively for women-led SMEs, small and medium entrepreneurs, and Mudra for both male and female, and it has dispersed around 3.2 lakh rupees of loans to the around out of total loans, 70% it has provided to women out of 100. That means 30% of the male are also the beneficiary of this, but it has been provided both to the male and female, and Udyogini is exclusively for women folk, and the impact of this is women own small medium entrepreneurs in Karnataka, as it has gone high by 18% in this 3 years between 2022 2023. Yeah. So now the self-help groups plus digital finance will take faster poverty reduction, which will be the sustainable development goal 1, that is no poverty, right? Quotas plus training will provide more women in leadership, because quotas has to be provided, training has to be provided, because not only if they give quotas, along with that she has to be provided training for the proper functioning of any activities. So that will take care of goal 5, gender equality. Child care provisions, privileges, facilities, infrastructure, along with science, technology, engineering, and mathematical education will give results as higher workforce participation. That is goal number 8, that is decent work. And small medium entrepreneur subsidy will take for reduced income gaps, that is reduction of inequality, sustainable development goal 10. These are the sources which I have taken from Niti Aayog, Karnataka Economic Survey of 2023, and also some of the reports, some of the World Bank reports. And we all know that policy implementation, that is for relating to sustainable development goal 5, that is women or the gender equality. And 10th one is reduction inequality is 30% minimum women in all decision making quotas, constitutional quotas. And result, we all know that 61% of the women, I'm talking about the global, don't confuse with the parliament as India. It is, I'm talking about the global results. Gender budgeting of 2011, that is 30% of the national budget tagged for gender equality. 60% of the agricultural funds target women farmers. So these are some of the important success stories. Like they provide seed capital for SHGs, and Kerala's Kutumbashri, which will be the almost resemblance of self-help Stree Shakti of Karnataka. 4.5 million members and 20,000 crore rupees as annual turnover. And Kerala's Kutumbashri is also one of the success story, and which has led to the um, development of women folk in Kerala, and Stree Shakti of Karnataka, which is benefiting to 1.2 lakh self-help groups since 2000, 1999, 8 bantu, Nantra adala agi, since 2000 it is working. And 5,000 crores credit linkages through banks it is providing as a credit facility. Women-led agri-tech startups, ಆಗಲೇ ಸಂಜೀವಿನಿ ಯೋಜನೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ. AI ಪವರ್ಡ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಲಿಂಕೇಜ್ ಆ್ಯಪ್ ಸಹೇಲಿ ಅಂತಾನು ಕೂಡ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಒಂದು ಲಿಂಕೇಜ್ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ವಿತ್ ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ದಿ ಲೇಬರ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಇಟ್ ಮೈಟ್ ಬಿ ದಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ರೇಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಷನ್ of the women, though it has improved, there is some gap, gender gap in the process of payments as well as in the employment opportunity, both globally as well as in India. Various measures have been undertaken by the government as well as the NGOs for that. And various success stories. Rwanda's mobile-based cooperatives have reached 80% of rural women, and Brazil's Dinners Club have resulted in gender-sensitive credit scoring. And similarly, public sector undertaking banks to reserve 25% MSME loans for women in India. I'm talking about SBI's Annapurna scheme. Saheli app bandide adanna to integrate RBI's e-rupee for cashless self-help group transactions, and add vernacular artificial intelligence chatbot for financial literacy. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂಥನ್ ಆಂಟಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನೋಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ಮಾಡೆಲ್ಸ್. ಐಸ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಪೇ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್, ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟರಿ ಆಡಿಟ್ಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ 3 years. ಹೀಗೆ ದೆರ್ ಆರ್ ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ ಸ್ಟೋರೀಸ್. ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಪ್ರಯಾರಿಟಿ ರಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ, nowadays gig workers have penetrated in women have penetrated as gig workers, and informal sectors ತುಂಬಾ ದಿನದಿಂದನೇ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಬಂದ್ರು. ಇವನ್ ಗಿಗ್ ವರ್ಕರ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಕಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ವಿಮೆನ್. And mandates disclosure of gender gap in CSR reports. ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ Karnataka have also taken various steps, and there is need for further strengthening of STEM level of education, science, technology, education, and mathematics, and to improve these app for the better involvement or the participation of women folk in general